Everyone, welcome to another episode of Code and Think. This is a special episode. With me today, I've got Mukundi. Mukundi is the founder of Ambani Africa, a platform that makes learning African languages easier. Ambani Africa it has won several awards, such as the MTN App of the Year Award. And Mukundi and her team have really built one of the most innovative educational platforms today. Mukundi, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for that intro.
Mukundi, tell us a bit about yourself and background. Who is Mukundi and how have you come to where you are today as the founder of Ambani Africa?
So my background is actually a little bit, I didn't start out in tech. I actually started out in the creative industry. So I initially studied film and I was a video editor for a long time. I started another business at the time with three other ladies. And that was really in the creative industry. So a lot of my experience before I sort of came into tech was very much in film and TV and advertising and just the creative industry broadly. And then I sort of found myself taking a real interest in just the tech space and all of the different things that were happening there, particularly creative in the creative industry. And so I went to study. I did a master's, and a lot of it was me sort of learning and relearning the creative industry from a technology perspective. And I think that's what really sort of led me to this Ambani Africa journey.
Yeah. And what inspired you to start Ambani Africa? I mean, I've been on the site myself, and I saw that most of the content is targeted towards a younger audience, which may be a bit sad because I also want to learn some of these languages.
We're all children at heart. I think it's we have a lot of adults who are using it and enjoying it. So you'll have a good time. You'll have a good time.
Yeah. But what was the inspiration? What was the inspiration behind Ambani Africa?
So one, at the time when I was doing my master's research, I was speaking to a lot of parents. I was speaking to a lot of new parents. And it was really, I mean, the study initially was just about sort of understanding a certain generation, and it was from sort of a very advertising perspective. So I wanted a better understanding of this cohort and, you know, what it is they buy into. And in doing that research, a lot of this idea about language and culture and, you know, creating really the culture of your household. So a lot of them were moving from what they call their families of origin to their families of destination. And they were trying to figure out, we're having kids, we have these families, we're trying to figure out our placement in culture and in language, and how do we impart that onto our kids, and we actually don't have the skill or the time or the resources. And I think a lot was also happening in education, in the sense that you know, over the past couple of years, a lot of schools have now had to introduce previously marginalized African languages. So the schools themselves are teaching these languages for the first time. You find that in university, if you haven't done an African language before, so if you are in certain universities, if you're studying to be a doctor or a lawyer or a journalist, or, you know, the type of work where you're interacting with people, you now have to do this African language in your first year at university. But it was also personal. It was that, you know, I speak Chivenda, but when I want to speak it more fluently, when I want to dig deeper, there just aren't like resources to do that, right? If you're not speaking to your family, if you're not speaking to people, where do you go? And with other languages, it's so easy. If I want to learn English right now, if I want to learn French, you know, there's so many possibilities and resources. And you just find that with our own African languages, they're just so digitally underrepresented. And so it was, I think, a personal inspiration. It was a research-based inspiration, and it was just, I think, the atmosphere was people really wanting to engage more in African languages and culture.
Yeah. Mm. So I've seen that the application uses AR. Uh, what why did you decide to go with AR? Was it more around being able to bring gamification into it, or what was the reasoning for bringing AR into the application?
So I mean, one reason was really probably selfish in that I was exploring this this technology, and I took a real, and I was like, oh, it's so exciting.
Yeah,
No, but it really does, fortunately, have really great learning impact, right?
yeah,
It,
yeah,
it brings certain things to life. I think, especially in our education situation, where people don't always get to go out and see certain things and explore certain
mm,
things. It brings those experiences, to you where you are, instead of you having to go out and have all of those experiences. But yeah, I think even using technology, so oftentimes, you'll get the criticism of not everyone can access this technology, etc.
mm,
So
mm,
it's definitely something we're working on. But it was important that even learning and getting comfortable with technology becomes part of the experience for our users, right? So
yeah,
it's these users who are often, it's always sort of no printer worksheet, or they don't get to be exposed and to experience technology, in as much as others do. And so it was important for us to say, be comfortable with technology, use it for learning, because that's probably what you'll be doing for the rest of your life. That's probably what you'll encounter later on in life. So that tech aspect was important. But
yeah,
it has been, it was initially challenging. I think it's getting easier, but it was initially challenging educating the audience about, augmented reality and what it is and how it works, and why it's sort of worth using. And I think
yeah,
as soon as someone's experienced it, they're like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. But getting them to that
yeah,
point where they're willing and able to try it, was something we overlooked in the beginning. And I think you do that as because you come from a certain, you in that technology space, and you're sort of used to it, and for you it's, you don't consider that those the education that you have to do with the audience as well, to sort of get their buy-in and bring them on board.
I mean, I thought it was really cool because I remember when I came across the app, um, I I was still considering just tinkering around with AR as I'm a developer, so I was still in the process of considering tinkering around with it, and you had already like put it up in the app store. Yeah, so that I found to be really cool. Um, so you mentioned some of the challenges that you faced, which is getting people to even understand what AR is or how it even works. And what are some of the challenges that you've come across along the way?
Sure, where do I start? um, so many, I think, challenges across different aspects, right?
Yeah.
I think from a business perspective, especially being in the education space, I think it's hard to find the balance between being a profitable business, saying that balance between impact and our own sustainability. So you want to be able to sort of, the app is free at the moment, and we're transitioning into a freemium version of the app. But that's been a challenge, right? It's to say this is necessary, and we want it out there for whoever can access it.
Mm,
And really our impact is in us being able to get it to the user. But oftentimes our user one is children, so they're not the ones paying for it. And oftentimes it's not all of our users can pay for that. So it's finding that balance between how do we sustain ourselves as a business, how do we find a viable business model, but also
mm,
how do we continue to do the work we're trying to do, and be impactful in that. So there's that sort of business challenge. I think in terms of the technology, there's always the sort of team challenge, finding the right people, finding people who have their own beliefs and are invested in what it is you're doing here. So not just sort of bringing in people who are just going to follow your vision, but finding people who are already active in the space and already have a similar vision, and sort of bringing them together into this business is a challenge. Yeah, I think just across, just even building a brand and building in the space, and as we said, being able to use technology, being able to put something out that isn't perfect, I think has been such a big challenge for me. And being open to criticism, and knowing that you can, think you've put out the perfect thing, and then you put it out, and as soon as people have it's all of these things that you didn't consider, and being able to kind of accept that and take that in. And I have to like set myself up for days where I go into the app store and just look at all the comments and respond. I have to like prep. I have to mentally and emotionally prepare myself to say, okay, with going in today. But it's great in the sense that you get such people are so passionate about languages. People have been really receptive and passionate about the app, and in giving us feedback and in saying we want this language and we need this, and this game should do this. So that feedback's been great, but it's always a challenge. Trying to create something and putting it out, and trying to know how to embrace all of the different feedback that you'll get.
Yeah. And has it always, like, from the inception, did you start off already with languages in mind, or did you, because with any startup, there's always situations that you find yourself in, that you go in with an initial hypothesis, and only to find out that the market might be looking for something different. Did you encounter anything like that with building Ambani?
Oh, definitely. So we initially started out with just an augmented reality app, and that was attached to sort of our books. And then now we're mostly a gaming app, and that was literally just based on the market, and seeing what was working and what wasn't. So the AR is almost an additional, but really we're primarily this gaming app, and that was really determined by the market. In terms of languages, I've had to learn to also just I mean, there's a lot of feedback you'll receive from the market, right? And they'll be like, this language and that language and that language, and you want to be able to respond to all of that. And so now I've had to just calm down a little bit. I think we came out with Learn Language. We very quickly transitioned to 6 languages. We're now trying to move to 10 languages, and it's like every time you add a language, it's so much additional work. So I'm trying to be a little bit more like slow that down and just be a bit more intentional about how we're adding languages. So, also balancing what the market is saying versus our capacity and what it is we can do, and being able to do this thing really well before moving on to the next thing.
Yeah. That's really, I always wondered how, as a founder, like, at what point do you base your decisions purely on the feedback, or do you also make the decisions based on intuition, on maybe past experiences, like the decision to say, okay, we are now moving away from this app just being an AR app, it's going to be this. How do you get to that point? How do you know when it's the right time to make a decision like that?
Sure. I think it's a mix. I think that's a great question. And I think it's a mix of things, right? So oftentimes definitely do the research and ask people, but that's also an art form. How you're asking certain questions might lead to I think they call it the mom test, where you're asking in a way that leads to the answers you want. So even that is such a delicate art form, knowing who to ask,
Yeah.
and how to ask. I think a lot of it is intuition. A lot of it is kind of having that vision and knowing, because there are sometimes things that, if I went out and said to people, do you want an augmented reality app? They would have been like, we don't know what that is, so no. And so some of it was sort of your own intuition going, I really think this can work. Let's give it a try and see.
Does venture backing add additional pressure in
Oh.
in decisions that you have to make to yeah, to start monetizing the business?
It definitely does. So I mean, I'm very, very grateful for our backers. I'm grateful for the different. I mean, we've been part of Ingenie, IDF, or the I'm In program, E Squared. So I'm super grateful for one, that has been smart capital. So it hasn't just been sort of here's the backing, now bring these results, but it's really been a journey where you're walking with people along the way, and they're sort of involved in, or you're able to make them aware that this is the challenge, these are the decisions we have to make, and they're able to sort of put in whatever mentorship or whatever guidance, whatever advice, whatever expertise you
Yeah.
need to be able to move and make those decisions. So I always say, even when looking for not all money is equal, right? They might give you the same amount of money, but I think there is smarter capital that can sort of walk that journey with you. But there's definitely a lot of pressure. Obviously, it's money, it's other people's money. They want certain results. So
Yeah.
so it definitely does create just a completely different, if you're working for the business, if you're thinking about the users, you're also thinking about this third leg of investors, and how
Yeah.
you balance all of those different needs.
Yeah. No, that's very interesting. So where do you hope to take Ambani? What's your vision for Ambani?
I think we're definitely, and we already have been, but sort of moving into other areas, as far as education goes. So
Yeah.
so for us to be able to really be a holistic platform, a holistic educational platform, for us to be able to get into really those spaces. So whether it's, and it's a lot of work we're doing now, where we're working with schools, and we're trying to work with various, like the departments of education, so that we're really making the impact where it counts,
Yeah.
and being able to bring those spaces into the future, and just make learning more engaging and more impactful for all of our learners. So it's really moving into being just a lot more holistic, as a platform, a lot more engaged, moving into different spaces, and not just sort of the app world, moving into other platforms as well.
Mm, mm. And will I also get to use Ambani?
You can use Ambani right now, by the way. Anyone can use it right now. I use it all the time. It's so fun.
Can you take us through how the whole app works, or just how it's meant to work? Because um, I'm gonna give it a try. I because you're saying even users like myself, it's not just for kids. I am gonna give it a try. But can you just take us through how the app is meant to work?
Sure.
Mm.
So our main app is a gaming app, and it's really, it's for you to be able to learn basic vocabulary. So
Mm.
you'll find that there's different themes. There'll be things like, phrases, animals, numbers, and each of those themes have different sets of games. So usually we'll start with what we call a slideshow, but it's really what teaches you the initial vocabulary. And then all of the other games sort of test your knowledge of that vocabulary.
Mhm.
We're doing an update at the moment, that will also include what we call the watch section. And this is really where you're able to see short animated content. You're able to listen to audio stories, listen to some songs. We've got some really great songs that do well on YouTube as well. And this is also just because when you're learning a language, it has to be immersive, right? So of course, there's the play practice side, but there's also the immerse yourself in listening to the language side. We've got what we call learn, and these are really lessons. So we've got little like tutor video lessons that you can go through that sort of help you to learn the language, and that's part of our upcoming update. So yeah, we're trying to make it a little bit more, have the fun side, which is sort of the games and being able to test your knowledge and your practice, but also being able to watch content, being able to get some lessons from tutors, being able to listen to some stories, being able to listen to some songs as well, which help you retain knowledge of that language. Then we have the augmented reality part, and that works with our augmented reality books. So there you'd have to purchase the books first, and you can do that on Art of Superwoman. You can do that on Ethnic Kids, which are all online. And once you have the books, then the augmented reality app is really simple. It's free. You just download it. You open the camera or your phone camera. You sort of hold it over the books, and then certain things come to life in your phone or in the app.
That's what I remember. Yeah, that's one of the really cool aspects of the application. But yeah, Kundi, thank you so much for your time, and I really like the vision that you have for Ambani. I wish you and the team all the best, and yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Awesome, thank you, Tati. It's been fun. It's been good.
Okay.